Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this issue number 7 of The Long Voyage. We've had some audio problems, to put it mildly, getting started today, but hopefully they should now be resolved and we are ready to go. We are not a full group today. Baggy's player is Heine is unable to join us today, and Sindri's player Chris will be a little bit late. However, the other three are all here, so we can get started. Of course, it also means, seeing as Sindri is not here, that the guy has actually managed to weasel out of giving a recap of last time.
Boo!
Yes, it's grossly unfair, I know. But there you have it. So, any volunteers? Deep silence. All right, I'll handle it then. I just need one of you guys to actually speak up, so make sure that the sound actually does work this time.
Yay.
Yay, it works. Okay, good. Sorry for that, dear listener, but we have, as I mentioned, had some real issues with the audio today. Anyway, last time we started out with you in your encampment in that forest that you had found, that small forested area, and you had camped in a so-called dell in this forest. And while Baggy was off on a private errand that shall not be explained further, he was suddenly attacked and rather badly wounded, actually, right from the get-go, by a skeletal creature, a so-called barrow wight, and it had brought 4 friends, and that led to a fight between your group and these barrow wights, which you won. You conquered them on the back of some pretty impressive crushing on behalf of Ylva, as usual, and some decent archery as well. And then overall, it went well. As I mentioned, Baggy got rather badly wounded. A couple of the rest of you got some scrapes, and one of your comrades from Tearglass, the man named Odran, was very severely wounded when he took an arrow through the lower part of his leg, and it shattered one of the bones in the process and pinned him to the ground, literally. And he, seeing as you have no access to any kind of even the most basic healing magic, which is not unusual in this world, seeing as it's healing magic is a fairly rare thing.
Sorry.
It's fine. It is rare. It is unusual, and because of that, Audrin had to be. Well, quite frankly, he had to be left behind. He was given his weapons and some rations, and he was seated up against a rock. And basically, the hope was that somebody would find him there before he starved or thirsted to death, and bring him to safety. Or, for that matter, that something vile and nasty found him and killed him. That's also obviously a possibility. But you had to press on, and you did. And you ended up at a fishing. Well, it can't even be called a village. It was like 3-4 houses or something like that, and a few boat sheds and not much else. But the locals there, as it turned out, were initially absolutely terrified of you, because you being Southlanders and huge and frightening and stuff, and also because they had recently been conquered by Liam's forces, and let's just say they hadn't been particularly nice to the locals. They basically, these poor people living off what fish they can catch in the river primarily were well, most of their fish got taken away by Liam's army, and they even took one of the boys in the village with them to fight for them. So, needless to say, that the local population there were not huge fans. I think that's probably me being very diplomatic about it, and and they were more than happy once they learned that you weren't with Liam's forces. They were very happy to ferry you across the river so you could continue towards Ballycnock, which is your destination, which is a town on top of a hill, a fortified town on top of a hill, and you did get ferried across. You did get told that there were apparently Southlanders in Liam's army as well, and you did get some information about what colors they wore, their cloaks, and one of these groups turned out to be a group called the Long Racers. They use long single-bladed weapons or swords, and the other group was called, or the other group was basically they were from the Phelan family, the same family that destroyed Hueborg, and consequently you. Obviously, there was some grumbling and some growling and some feeling of, okay, let's go out and get these bastards. And I think that's pretty much what we got through, wasn't it? Was there anything else?
Ilva scared the shit out of a little girl.
Yes. Yes, you did. But that's because you're huge and terrifying and stuff.
And then she gave her a little piece of her hair.
Yes. That is true.
Because she might look scary, but she actually isn't.
She's actually quite nice. And yes, that is... I think that's pretty much where we are... where we are at. So...
Take it away, Yarny!
Indeed.
Sorry.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. And yes.
Who bedinged?
Well, that's a convenient appearance.
Ladies and gentlemen of the viewing audience, this is a service announcement. I have returned!
Just as the recap ended.
Literally right as the recap ends, you turn up.
Oh.
I'm squinting my eyes in suspicion.
Yeah. It wasn't deliberate, I promise you. It wasn't.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, the internet where we are is terrible, and for some reason, apparently, there's only so much to go around. So I had to not be on it for a while.
Yes.
It's really typical, really.
Yeah,
yep.
Pretty much.
Okay.
So
we were where?
We
were traveling toward the thingy we were about to run over.
As I said, I think the last thing was pretty much you getting across the river and setting out, and you realized that you were in the area that you were in now is fairly heavily populated. You found some some dirt roads and so on where lots and lots and lots of carriages and carts and so on had created plow tracks almost, or tracks in the ground at least from the wheel tracks, not plows but wheels.
Oh, one thing.
Yes,
Mr. Drunkard, we're running out of drunk things.
Oh yes, that's right. He Ardal is getting unpleasantly sober, which is obviously a problem.
Yes. He's being stalked by the dreaded cold turkey.
Yes, it's a horrible beast.
Yes.
What did we end up deciding with him?
That we are not gonna indulge him?
So he'll have to sober up or stay behind, basically.
Basically, we weren't gonna go into larger cities to get him something.
Nope.
So he'd have to do with whatever we found and not start killing people over it.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah. Yes, we were about however long. We were 3 days into. Was it 3 days into the journey towards where we needed to go? Where we
No, quite a bit more actually. You
Oh,
it
fair
was the fourth day where you got attacked in the woods. That was on the evening of the fourth day. And
Okay,
you've
so-
traveled several days since then, so you're now on the 7th, I believe it was the 7th.
Oh, so yes, we had 3 days until the location. That was right.
Yes.
We also discussed, among other things, potential battle strategies about what we might or might not be able to do, depending on what we could.
Yes.
Okay, so suppose we just have to carry on then.
There's not much alternative to that. That's true. So you continue in the general direction then.
Yep.
All right. Well,
We have the locals with us.
yes,
They
you
should
do.
know where we're going.
Oh yeah, but absolutely. Both Galvan and Bredon are pretty decent trackers and know the direction that you are going in. They have, you know, they have it under control, but the problem is, as they've also made it clear, you have made it somewhat off course because you had to go around the forest instead of going through it. So
It was that or being chased by yucky
yes.
undead shit.
Yes, no, there's no question, and but it simply means that you are not exactly where you were meant to be at this time, and you are a whole lot closer to a lot of Liam's men than is probably, preferable, to be perfectly
Healthy.
honest. Yes, you're also quite close to the capital of CharismaToAC.
All right.
Which is officially, at least, is a neutral city, and unofficially Liam holds it, or his men loyal to him holds it. And
No one's surprised there.
no one is surprised there at all. But you can you continue your journey through the landscape, and yes, you do in fact come across quite a lot of people. Civilians first and foremost, obviously, people bringing goods to and from the capital, people just going to or fro in general, a hunter, that sort of thing, just general population on the road.
Yeah.
You do also at least once come across small groups of enemy soldiers, but Bredon is very, when you see them, he's very insistent that don't start a fight with them just yet. We don't need to be discovered. The last thing we need is one of these guys getting away and warning someone else. So unless they figure out who we are and attack us, let them go.
Yeah.
Which is probably,
Why do they have to be so sensible about it?
yeah, it's horrible, isn't it?
It's horrible.
Yes. And of course,
Skulls! Don't crush them.
Yeah.
Aw.
but of course, you do get some serious looks because there are Southlanders in your group, and these enemy troops are all, they're all very interested. And one of those groups does actually, you towards the end of the day, you do come across a group of 15 warriors. Where the leader, who's mounted on a horse, demands to know who you are, because again, you have Southlanders with you, and he says he knows that there are Southlanders in Liam's army. He's seen them, but they don't match the cloaks that they wear are different than yours, he says. So he wants to know who you are, and yeah, basically just, he's quite curious.
Yeah, I don't understand the word he's saying, so she just looks at Gylfi because he understands.
Gylfi!
Hmm.
And that is when poor Gylfi completely fell over and fainted.
Yeah, just full fetal position. Like, no.
Oh, he's so adorable.
Yeah, Gil will probably give Braden a look, and then if needed, follow his lead. Whatever he thinks it's appropriate by.
Well, Braden says, well, he calls out and says, yeah, we've been down south spying on Karatok's forces, and if we got caught with the cloaks they normally wear, they would be dead, because Karatok has Southlanders in his army as well, he says. And then, well, the man on the horse is clearly not completely convinced, and he says, well, in that case, he says, what warband are they from? And Braden looks towards you and points and says, those two, he says, and points to Sindri and Frothy, are they're from the Phalans, and the other three are long racers. And that clearly mollifies him, because that, obviously he knows the names.
Yes.
Yeah, why the hell would he know the names of warbands from Southlands unless he knew them?
Exactly. So he's and the man on the horse is like, okay, fine, no problem. Then, well, continue on. And he takes his men and passes by and just, yeah.
I think when he's passed, Frody will look quite miffed that he was pointed out as a Phalan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine that in the entire exchange, Gylfi was actually very much downplaying how much he understands of the glass.
Yes.
He would basically speak even worse than not Ardal as Aiden,
Yes.
even worse than Aiden in the new speech.
Yeah.
And often look at the Bradens oh.
Of course, so basically you are pretending to be completely unable to understand the local lingo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, though Ilva didn't understand much of it, she did understand Long Razor and Phelan, so she's chuckling lightly because she weren't pointed out as a Phelan.
No.
Phelan.
Yeah, and once the others are safely away, Braden takes a very just like deep breath.
Guilty one ups him and does a little hyperventilate, just
Whew. Well, I guess we owe our friends from the fishing hamlet a bit of that was close.
I don't want to be a Phalan next time.
No, don't worry. Next time I'll swap it over so that the others are. But I thought it was best.
Hey!
I thought it was best if I could mention both of those groups.
Yeah.
So that it didn't look like a, I don't know, wild guess or something.
That's probably right.
She elbows Sindri. Phelan.
Oh God.
If you were any other person, Ilva, if you were any other person,
He does look a bit confused, and I mean, you did mention to him that the Phalans were behind something horrible back in.
Well,
in
we
the
haven't
Southlands.
actually told what happened, but we
No,
lost our home, and
Yeah.
we growled when we heard Phelan.
Exactly.
That's about it.
Yeah, exactly. So he does look a little, I don't know, confused, I guess.
I think catching this, Frodi, waves her hand dismissively and says, "Southlander politics."
Oh, right. Probably as convoluted and complicated as they are here, I guess.
To this, Ilva lifts a brow. What?
this the matter with which Braden obviously doesn't understand why we're upset. We are hesitant to inform him. We might do so later, but not here and now. We need to move.
Gilfie's like looking at Sindri. Okay then, forward then.
Forward. Okay, you get back
Alistair
to.
with raised brows. She trusted them enough, but fine.
In Sindri's case, it's more a case of, can we not discuss this on the street where someone who might just by sheer dumb luck understand what we're talking about overhear us, sort of thing.
Yeah, see, that is very smart. But you're mistaking Ilva for someone smart.
Oh, good. Well, you guys.
It's not because she's dumb, but she's
no.
only learned stuff about hitting things for the last,
years.
4 years?
Yes. In fairness, you are when you start moving again, it's getting on in the afternoon at this point, and not long after that, the sun actually starts setting, and Braden says, "Well, we need to cut across here." He says, "We need to go somewhat back towards the east, because we need to make up for the swing to the west we did all the way back with the down at the forest." So he starts moving away from the road and across the landscape, and eventually, of course, you set up camp. And by this point, you're well away from any beaten path.
Okay.
Then it's walking.
Yeah.
Walking a little more.
Well, no, right now it's camping, and camping a little more.
Oh, we're sitting. All right.
Yes.
Yes.
You make camp for the night, and the rations are brought out. You haven't had a chance to catch anything along the way because there's been so many people all the time. So.
It's been too stressful to actually take a breather and eat.
I would say if it's not too dangerous, Gilfield try to forage around for something.
At this point, Braden suggests that you all stay together, because while you are away from the road, he doesn't want to risk anything.
Yeah.
So better use the rations that you have along for the trip, and then we'll see about catching something in the morning. If memory serves me, he says we're gonna need to find something to eat before tomorrow evening anyway, because we're about to get to the probably the most annoying part of the trip.
What is that?
I would say I hope you're not afraid of getting your feet wet, but then you're Southlanders, so I guess that's pretty much a foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I suppose even more so in our case, where we come from has some notable marshlands.
Yes, and that is pretty much the same thing here. He says that's what we're about to get to.
Yeah, but the difference here is that your water is lukewarm. Ours is frozen.
Well, I suppose lukewarm is better.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that it would probably stink more.
Well, the place is called. Port Ahmar, he says, and that means foul swamp or foul marsh.
Fitting?
Yeah.
Mm.
You can.
The smell is going to be, well, let's just say we're going to smell it before we see it.
I am agog with enthusiasm.
Yes, aren't you just? Aren't we all? And you can just see the other guys just, yay.
Yes.
There's nice and grassy where we are now, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, in that case, I'm gonna enjoy the grass while we have it. And then she plops down in the grass.
Yep.
Weird soft green snow.
Well, you do have grass in the Southlands as well.
I know. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Jacob would sit down like cross-legged, pull out his mortar and pestle, and try to attempt making some of the gold clover that he gathered into actual poultices.
Yes, that sounds like a very good way of spending the evening. And of course, now that you're there and you're in a more secure and safe location, Braydon does look to all of you and say, I'm not going to be a bother about this because it looked like it's a very private matter, but I'm still a bit confused about what went on out there with the Phelan thing.
Ilva stretches and sits up. Well, you remember we talked about losing our home?
Yes?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. The Phalans lost it for us.
Oh.
They decided to back another sword all of a sudden.
Cack.
So yes.
Oh my goodness. I'm terribly sorry for having associated any of you with them.
Yes,
yeah, exactly. I mean,
well, chances are that they weren't actually there when it happened, so they might not even know that it happened.
I guess that's a possibility. What about if you said they left to serve another sword? What about these long razors?
They're an entirely different woman.
From what we understand, they are still loyal to the sword we serve. So
that would sort of indicate that. Let's face it. That would kind of sort of indicate that at least these Phalans don't know what has happened in the Southlands, wouldn't it? Because otherwise, would they even be able to coexist with this other warband?
Probably not.
I mean, it would be pretty much like somebody serving Liam and us trying to get along, wouldn't it? It's not likely to happen.
It's
might be a way to sow some discord.
Yes, and to thin Liam's ranks if we can convince at least the Razors to
that would be
serve the side the Raven Lady feels is more appropriate. Well, not backing, but
no, obviously, but no, bad choice of words.
She would prefer to face Karatok in the future. She considers him a more honorable leader.
He is, and from what I understand, I think I would prefer that as well, because if I get it, then they would fight and the rest of us would not have to die.
Possibly.
That would be preferable, wouldn't it? A duel. I mean, there are stories of how swords used to do that in the olden times, but it's been a long while since they did that, at least here.
I guess an army turned out to be quite a useful tool.
I guess so.
It's the way way things work, isn't it?
It is.
Armies build up, nations form and become bigger and bigger, and now we're in a situation where everything's too big to settle with duels most of the time.
But it's so weird, though. I mean, if you think about it rationally, we've traveled now for, what, a week? Or not a week, that's not what he says, because it's a 10-day. We've traveled for 7 days now, together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I, I actually... I can only speak for myself, of course. He says, but I actually rather like you guys. You're good people. And what we saw down with that fishing hamlet, you have your hearts in the right place, and you're not murderous and villainous and horrible and all these things. And yet,
Nabbit.
and yet he says, strictly speaking, if we look at it, we are future enemies. At least we have to be. At some point, this...
Technically, we should be enemies now, but I think...
Well, your sword is busy with someone else, and ours is, so...
Yes, besides, I'm slowly coming to learn that even enemies can show each other respect.
I should think so. Some enemies. Let's just say if we run into these Phelan assholes, we're not going to show them a whole lot of respect, any of us, are we?
No,
all the other men of Tearglass who are sitting there, and the Aiden, they're all nope. If we get our chances at them, we're just going to make them hurt a lot.
Ylva actually holds her hands up from her laying position with a no. If they don't even know what happened back there, they might not actually be condoning of what happened.
So you mean we should give them a chance to swap sides as well?
It is
the thing is, if they still have battle maidens, they don't know, because battle maidens are always loyal to the Wanderer's sword.
Oh.
If their battle maidens have left them, there is a big chance that they know what happened and they either off the battle maidens, which I really don't think they would be able to, or they left them.
It's a case of... It's in your case, certainly, Ylva, you would have to speak to any other battle maidens and convince them that the one that they are truly meant to serve does not wish them to serve any army of Liams. As for the rest of the Phelan warband, it would be a case of putting to them who they wish to be more loyal to, their paymasters or their sword.
Yeah.
In either case, it would be beneficial if we could get some of them to change to Karatak's side.
Oh, absolutely.
The best case scenario is the Phalans we have here completely abandons the Phalans back home and joins our cause. But yeah, I don't like the idea of it either.
Well, it is definitely worth. I will say it's at least worth considering.
From a tactical standpoint, several ships of Southlands is better than several ships fighting each other.
Yeah. Plus, of course, let's just assume that for a second that Liam is using his Southlander forces in much the same way that Karatok is. Then, if you can convince even some of them to come over to our side, you're gonna put a real you're gonna impact Liam's plans pretty severely, because the people who are supposed to carry out parts of his missions for him, and I somehow find it difficult to believe that he's not doing much the same thing, using them for really dangerous stuff, because you're big and strong and well armored and so on. It would make sense. Also, however much I hate to say this, you're foreigners and therefore
expendable.
There's no other word for it, is there?
To be fair, if the situation were reversed, we'd you would use men of the Green Shores for the same purposes if we used you in our armies.
I guess so.
It's
I mean,
also
it just
unknown.
makes-
You see the way people react to us here.
Yeah.
People fear what they do not know, meaning they'll usually react in a more irrational way. That irrational way of reacting will give you an in.
I agree.
So if they already decide that they fear us, then we already won.
Yes, you
In most cases.
have an excellent point.
It would be the same in the Southlands. You might be shorter, but we've also heard how fast and quick-witted you are. If we don't know you, it's normal to fear it.
Yeah, I guess. Or underestimate.
Or underestimate it.
No, it's definitely underestimates.
She looks over at Sindri.
Yeah, Sindri's looking a bit embarrassed. He squirms a bit and says, he looks Braden squarely in the eye, man to man, and says, "When I first heard we were coming here, I expressed often my lower opinion of people from these lands, and I've been proven time and again that I was wrong to think that way of your people. So I suppose I owe you an apology at the very least."
Well, for what it's worth, I don't actually, blame you for thinking that way. Again, where in the world would you find anyone who, how do I put this? We are all raised to believe and understand that our sword is the biggest and the strongest and the best and so on and so forth. And by extension, he says, we tend to think that we are the best. I think it's pretty natural. Why would the biggest and the best sword have followers who weren't equally the greatest?
Well, I guess that depends on the sword, really.
I suppose. But I think it's a normal way of looking at it. He says.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hilva shrugs. She remembers most of what she's learned about the Raven Lady, and one thing is that even if they actually got to hurt her, she would keep it to learn from it.
Yeah.
So in Ilva's mind, she actually sees all people as equals, and therefore there's no really an issue there.
No.
But it's not always like that. I mean, that is natural, but there are people, and again, myself included to a degree, although I am learning to overcome this, that in the Southlands that would look upon men of the Green Shores and see you as little better than thralls, less than, for lack of a better term, less than human, less than worthy of being human, and that's not right. So that's why I extend you my apology, because until recently I was one of those people, and I'm learning better now.
That is actually, that's all right. He extends a hand and he says, well, to learning more about each other.
Indeed. And Sindri takes the hand.
Yeah. And he shakes it. And, and he sits down again by the small campfire and says, so, he says, I mean, I hope you don't mind me asking, but what is she like, your sword? I mean, you've seen Karatok, but, well, you've seen him. You haven't really had much chance to interact with him, obviously, but you've seen him at least.
So they didn't listen to Ilva's rant when they asked
time? Oh, yes. But they're interested. He's clearly interested in knowing if you have any stories about her.
Well, you can always let Ilva go on a tangent again.
Ilva sits up, and then she stops herself, shakes her head, and then lays back down. Nah.
I think she is quite fittingly like a blizzard in many areas. She'll keep up the pressure and the creeping cold slowly forcing her way to victory, assuredly, but not always in a way you can see. She's very patient.
I think that's, quite frankly, I think that's a virtue in a sword, he says, to be patient.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could never be a sword. I'm too impulsive, they say. She does have the floor impulsive.
Yeah.
Well, there is that, Uva, and the fact that you were not graced by the powers to become one. If that's indeed how a sword comes to be, nobody knows, of course.
Nobody really knows.
No, but I don't even think I would be fitting for a leader.
Even physically, the Raven Lady.
She's enormous.
She makes one of us look like one of you by size comparison.
The others, all the other guys, they sit upright when you say that and just look completely astonished at the idea of anybody being that big.
Yeah, you have to remember that while Karatag is huge, he's a, tear glass sword?
Yeah.
If they started out as humans when they started this, then she would have grown from a Southlands with the same kind.
And I remember seeing her once. She came to visit our hold. I was forced to go by my father. And aside from the height and the armor and the scars, her face was ruined. It was like nothing I'd ever seen. And just for a moment, I met eyes with her, I remember. And of course, I met eyes with her recently in these visions we've been having. It's like, the Sindri looks. Have we got a fire going? By the way,
yeah.
It's like looking into that fire, right into the heart of it. Only more. It was like looking into the heart of. Out of character. What would be the Southlander equivalent of hell in this case, if we have a word for it or a name for it?
There isn't really one. There's the halls of the Corpse Queen would be the closest you get to it, but that's only, as it says in the description, the Corpse Queen she's got two different halls. One is nice and pleasant, and nice food and friends and so on, and then you have the place where she sends all the really icky people.
Yes. Tell me, Braden, do your powers have a place to send the dishonorable dead to suffer?
Yeah, nobody knows much about the afterlife, obviously, but yes, we do kind of we have a pretty clear idea that if you have been wicked in life, you go to a very, very bad place.
Well, looking too long into the eyes of the Raven Lady is rather like looking through the gate into that very, very bad place.
Ooh.
That might be why he doesn't really want to meet her.
She sounds...
Liam, I mean. With the way he's been, that's probably where he's headed.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean...
Yes, you would get desperate in the end.
I mean, yes, from what we've said of her, she does sound like a monster, and she can be. But she is also a fair ruler. Firm, but fair, and she will always reward those who excel and who do well in what they are bid to do.
Do you have this is Aidan speaking of, he says, do you have it's like the humans here, they have a Re or an Ari, actually, a ruler, a man who's in charge of everything. What would you call it? Like
that's a Jarl in the Southland, right?
Yeah, that would be a Jarl.
Well,
there are local kings who usually don't last very long because,
Yeah, that's why she doesn't even mention it. Well, we do have our Jarls.
All right, that yeah, okay.
But yes.
But once a year, the Raven Lady holds a thing where everyone is equal.
Wow, that's... You mean even the nobles and the highborns and so on? They.
We don't really have such. Sure, there's a jarl, but it's very non-formal, really. Compared to here, it's very not formal, and of course there's respect for the captains because they have the big ships, and the Jarl because they help us keep us in place, and of course to the Raven Lady because she is our sword. But once a year, everyone's grievances are heard. As
That actually sounds really nice. Galvin says, I like that system. Why don't we have something like that?
I think you have to take it up with your rulers.
And that's exactly why, because the moment that any ruler, well, what little I understand of places like this, if you try and suggest to a man in power that they should relinquish some of it to others, they will.
That's usually a pretty unhealthy.
Yeah,
a pretty unhealthy idea, isn't it?
It's also pretty telling that it's actually our sword who's keeping this thing. It's kind of a thing where, if you want to dispute it, you have to take it up with her.
Well, if it's important enough, there are obviously more localized rulings on these things. But the basic principle is that if it's a matter that concerns all of the Southlands within the Raven Lady's purview, she will allow a matter to be debated. She will accept reasonable suggestions from those around her as to a course of action. But in the end, if it is important enough, she will have the final say, and there will be no questions on that.
I think that makes all the sense in the world. Braden says, I must say, I think you the way you presented your system sounds pretty fair and rather good, actually. I like the idea.
You're always welcome to defect.
Yeah, but let's face it, how much chance do you think we'd have in the Southlands? As Sindri just pointed out, there are probably quite a lot of people there who would put us in chains the moment we set foot there.
As much as I would like to say that I would do what I could, I and everyone here would do what they could to help you achieve equal status among us, the political upheaval that such a thing would cause would be disastrous to us. We need unity in the Southlands.
Politics, eh?
Well, yes, I guess it's a byproduct of being so few. Everyone is needed, and the way it all started too. A ton of small cities spread all around a very icy vast, and then we met each other, and we had to find a way to actually get along.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, he says, I think we have a long way to go tomorrow. He says we should probably get some rest. I'll take the first watch, but we do need to get some rest before tomorrow. And Aiden nods and says, "Don't worry, I'll you take the first watch. I'll catch a few hours, and then I'll catch a few." Again, he doesn't use the word hours. I'll catch a little sleep, and then I'll
you can wake me up. I sleep less than everyone else for some reason.
Yeah, well, and Braden points towards the she and says, "Yeah, he barely sleeps at all."
Yeah, I know. He usually keeps me company when I take the late ones.
All right.
To be honest, at this point, there's no one I trust more to wake Ylva up than Aiden, considering what we know of you, Ylva, and your temperament when you're woken.
Yeah.
She looks at him, shocked and hurt, and are you telling me I'm grumpy when I wake up?
Yes.
I love one said no, and one said yes. Who were going no?
I mean, Thrody said yes.
Oh.
And I just said yes. So yeah, no one said no, sadly, unfortunately. But we both said yes. He was more diplomatic about it than I was.
It's just she looks at them both in turn, and then she sighs. Oh well then.
And then at this, Sindri turns to look at Frothy and says, "Why do I get the feeling that we're going to wake up one morning soon and something really nasty is going to have happened to us both?"
Because that's likely going to happen.
And the worst thing is I can't...
Go on.
The worst thing is I can't even rely on you for us to work together to watch our backs because, well, you and me.
I've lived with Ylva. I need all the help I can get.
Yes, but as much as I worry about what Ylva will do to me, I like Ylva, whereas I struggle to like you at the best of times, really.
You're such a charmer, Sindri.
I don't need to be a charmer. There are other people among us for that. I'm the one that kills things. Remember?
Really? You've had really low success rate with that reason.
Well then, allow me to get in some practice, he says, and leans over to Frothy.
Frothy's always ready for a sparring match.
Mm-hmm. No.
Ylva sits up and looks at the two again with a, oh god, not this again.
Yes, do you know what? We do need sleep. And
To keep us all awake, I will tie you both up.
Yes, I don't want that. Right, fine. I'll get some sleep. I'll kill you in the morning, Frothy.
Yeah.
Good luck. And good night.
Good night.
Alright. Everybody gets some rest in that case.
I kind of like the Simi rivalry. Simi, I don't like you. Simi, I kind of like you. Simi, I really don't like you.
What's going to happen is that we're going to keep on really bitching at each other, and then one of us is going to get killed, and we're going to get really mopey about it.
Yeah,
I mean,
my
Frothy has
best.
no problem with Sindri. He just enjoys, teasing him.
Because it's fun. Stuff happens when he
Exactly.
does that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just as fun as poking the sleeping bear. At what poke will the bear try to kill me?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's like
Anyway.
playing with fire, and we know Frothy loves playing with fire.
So, yeah. Anyway, yes, we all sleep. We all take turns on the watch, and then in the morning, something.
I have some bookkeeping to do. Okay, so how many poultices does Guilty manage to make in the evening? You want me to roll for it?
Let's get a roll for it.
Okay.
Rolling.
Herblore or folk medicine?
Yes.
Folk medicine, because the herb lore is to that is in order to what's it called? That is in order to identify the plants you need. Well, you manage. That's good, and you get 2 beneath it. So I'll say, all right. I'll say you get.
I have 5 worth of raw materials.
Yes, let's just say you make 3 in all. 1 plus 1 extra for each you roll under. So you managed to get 3 poultices together.
So I have 4 poultices ready,
Yes, you
and
do.
2 poultices. Okay, and now I have to roll for my nightmares because
Well, yes. Because
Those are important.
they really are.
still under 12.
Yeah, just.
Yep, you manage. And right, that means when you wake up the next morning, you're
dead.
No, you're not. Then you wouldn't wake up, obviously. But you are in okay condition. You've slept pretty okay, all of you, and pretty much ready to set out and make your way towards these swamps that he mentioned.
Yep. I've noticed that. Obviously, I know medicine and health is sort of really quite awful when you get injured in this world. But I noticed that both Frothy and the NPC sickness-stricken Bargy are wounded. I don't know if resting is doing them any good at this point.
Yeah, he's Baggy is getting better by resting, definitely.
That's good. That's the main thing. Because obviously, not that he's going to be able to do anything, seeing his player's not here, but he at less than half health, he's probably would be still looking a bit unhealthy at this point.
Oh yeah. He's clearly still wounded, but he's recovering.
How much health do you recover per day? One. All right, so I'll add 1 more HP.
Yay.
Do you recover more if you have like somebody actually tending to you?
Yes, then it'll help, obviously. And if you have someone who can tend to your sickness or your wounds, and you basically spend all the time on your back, not moving around.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Therein lies the problem. Even though you have Gulfi with you, you're still moving.
Yep. Better hope that, considering, yes, that we do have several... Considering that on this journey we haven't even really made contact with the enemy and we're one man down and two of our better fighters are injured, we need to really consider how we're going to approach our attack.
Better fighters.
Oh, you consider me one of the better fighters.
No,
Southlander.
just one of them.
Yeah, one of the better fighters.
Well, you're a Southlander and you do have Frulaika. It's kind of, that goes without saying. I'm not so...
I'm also sort of cool, actually.
Exactly. So, as much as we have the rivalry going on between the characters, I think Sindri can still acknowledge that Frodi is very much an asset to the team.
Yes.
Do you hear the laughter as my ribs split?
Yes. It's quite nasty, actually. You should stitch that together.
Mm-hmm. So, do we reach the swamp?
Even when they're not in character, they have the rivalry going on.
Oh yes, ladies and gentlemen of the viewing audience, this is a service announcement. Me and Rasmus have been darling frenemies for many, many years now.
Yes.
I consider you a friend.
Well, yes, but you still do love to tease me incessantly.
And mercilessly and stuff.
Anyway, let's focus on the game.
In fact, let's focus on taking our first break.
Okay.
Because we've played for about an hour, and if we take a break here, then we shall be right back with more The Long Voyage. So don't go anywhere.